Hello, everybody. Mackenzie here, coming at you to let you know that we're just about to show you our wonderful interview with director, production designer, all around extraordinary artist Sophie Ann Rooney, who we recently spoke about. She was the director, production designer for the King Black Box production of Romeo Pimp. And so just wanted to give everybody a heads up. In this episode, we do dive deeper into the topics of sexual exploitation and sex trafficking. So a trigger warning is in effect for this episode, and we have put resources down below for you to use should you need them. And without further ado, we hope you enjoy our interview with Ms. Sophie Ann Rooney. Enjoy. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to yet another fun installment of the Cup Interviews, brought to you by Cup of Hemlock Theatre. I am your co-artistic producer, Mackenzie, and today I'm so excited to say that we have the director, production designer, extraordinaire, the wonderful Sophie Ann Rooney, who we just spoke about on our episode all about Romeo Pimp that she directed and production designed. So welcome, Sophie, to the Cup.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Well, we're so excited to have you here because just a little background for our lovely listeners. We did our review of your wonderful show with Jaden. And then after that, you sent us such a lovely voice memo where you gave me even more juicy tidbits of symbolism and material that you wove into the piece that myself and Ryan and Jill all just went, we got to have you on just to talk more all about your process and about this piece in general, because it's so powerful and important. Like, you're so generous to let me come see it a second time. And I can just say, seeing it a second time, the punch that this show packed hit even harder, knowing where every twisted turn was going to be. And then you just feeling that even greater sense of helplessness of not being able to jump in and change the story was so much powerful the second time. So I just in love with this play. Like, anytime I see anybody else in the arts community, I'm like, get your hands on the script. Like, the run is done now, but get your hands on the script, get it produced in your local theaters. It is a powerful, beautiful, beautiful piece. And we're going to talk all about it and all about your amazing work that you did. But before we dive too far in, though, I got to know, what is in your cup today?
In my cup today, I have some orange juice. And
Oh,
this cup is significant because I went to Ukraine before the war to see
mm,
my partner's family before they
mm-hmm,
passed away.
mm-hmm.
And they're all passed away now, but we surprised them and it was a fun time. So I thought I'd bring this out today.
Oh, I
Thank
love that's a
you.
beautiful mug. Oh my gosh, look at the
It's
artwork
so
on that.
cute.
That's
It's got
stunning.
a whole little story. So
That's
there's
so
mine.
fun.
What have you got? What's your cup?
Well, my cup, so I'm actually currently on a staycation up north, up in my parents' place. I'm currently house sitting and looking after the family cat. So I don't have access to all my regular cup accoutrement in my condo. So I just grabbed this one cup from the cupboard just because I love Marvel. I love a good comic book movie. It's a good escape. There's not a ton of symbolism in those. So it's a nice popcorn filler. And I just enjoyed the characters. So, it's
Yeah.
a nice fun cup from the cupboard, and I'm drinking. What am I drinking? Strawberry banana crystal light today, because it's just not. It's just a little too early for a cup of tea. I don't know if I drink tea now, I'll be falling asleep by the time we're done recording. So I'm like, I got a little bit more work to do before the end of the day, so I gotta stay up, stay awake. So
Yeah, I feel
yeah.
that. Well,
Um,
cheers.
Cheers, cheers, cheers. So let's just dive in first. Sophie, give us a bit of background on who you are, how you kind of came to found the King Black Box
Hmm.
a theater there. Because, like, I live in Liberty Village and I didn't know this beautiful theater was around the corner from me. So, like, how did you
Yeah.
get involved with the arts? Because you do a whole bunch of different areas
Yeah.
within the arts. So, kind of give us your kind of elevator pitch background on who is Sophie Ann Rooney.
Well, I've been an artist probably, I'd say, from the beginning of time. I have worked in all different avenues. Wherever there is a story, actors and an audience, whether that
Mhm.
be TV, film, video
Mhm.
game, animation,
Mhm.
VR, commercial,
Mhm.
and theatre. And theatre
Mhm.
has been a significant part of my life. I trained in theatre first, and I was in professional theatre as an actor in my youth and trained. I got very lucky and got scholarships to go to the Royal Central in London and then Oxford School of Speech and Drama. But I'm actually based from Paris.
Mm.
So my work was in the French and English language theatre in Paris before I moved to Canada because of a TV series job that I got.
Mm.
And when I first landed, I landed in Vancouver and I directed some plays out in Vancouver. I loved it there. And when I moved here in the first writer's strike, and that would have been in 2010, I built a
Mhm.
stage. As soon as I got here, it was called Sterling Studio Theatre.
Mhm.
And I produced about 40 plays. Lots of them were one acts in festivals, but also we had 3 full seasons. And so that's how I started becoming an artistic director here in Toronto with Sterling
Mhm.
Studio Theatre. And that was
Mhm.
about 15 years ago. And we were part of the big boom of indie theatre that happened in that time. Our theatre was a little bit tucked away, further away. It
Mhm.
was right on in front of the Cadbury Chocolate Factory on Stirling Road.
Yep, that's a beautiful area.
Yeah, it was great, but it was at the time we had no social media, no one knew about us,
Mm.
but we still had people
Mhm.
coming, snowstorm and all, with like lineups out the door. So those are people who know Sterling shows and
Mhm.
Sterling Studio Theatre and what we were able to do. At the time, there was like Theatre Brouhaha, Storefront, and then Coal Mine opened up.
Mhm.
We had friends called the Unit 102, and then we joined forces with them
Mhm.
and became the Theatre Machine at Queen and in. So those that went up until about 2016, and then I
Wow.
went into directing in video game, and I
Mhm.
came back into doing theatre. So another writer's strike forced me to do it again because I was noticing artists were not getting work, and
Mhm.
there's so much life on stage. So I opened up the
Yes.
King Black Box, did a first season. We did
Mhm.
beautiful pieces. Did one with George F. Walker, who
Mhm.
he directed, Girls Unwanted.
Mhm.
I tried to program as much as I could that was conscious storytelling, whatever
Mhm.
was happening in Canada at the time. I wanted to reflect
Mhm.
on it. So we did the first one we dealt with IPV, intimate partner violence, because
Mhm.
it had just been declared an epidemic. With
Mm.
George's piece, reason why it was selected was at the time halfway homes were being defunded in Toronto. And, on this last one, this Romeo Pimp, the programming and the reason behind it was because I'd heard through a friend and a colleague about what was happening and the term Romeo Pimp,
Mhm.
and I had no idea what it was.
Mhm.
And at the same time, approached Jessie McQueen for
Mhm.
a coffee and heard that she had been kind of writing on the subject into a
Mhm.
feature film. And so I wanted to get the word out as much as possible
Mhm.
about what Romeo pimping is and
Mhm.
how prevalent it is specifically in the GTA.
Absolutely. I didn't know it was so prevalent in the GTA till I read your beautiful director's notes. And I mean, once again, like I've seen that the concept of Romeo Pimp on other TV shows and programs, like Law and Order had a very infamous episode about that years ago.
Mm,
And but then but I didn't realize it, like once again, you never realize just how close to home some of these crises are until you see a piece of work like this that brings that to light and goes, oh no, it happens everywhere. It's not just, on TV or in New York or in these other places. It can happen anytime, anywhere. So in your program note, you brought up the story about the boy who was coerced into being a Romeo pimp and then had to get up and then ultimately had to be relocated to Hong Kong
mhm.
in witness protection. So when you and Jesse were talking, was it always your intention to have this be a female protagonist story, or was there ever a talk about let's do it from the Ryan perspective and do a show more from his perspective versus a Jamie perspective? Because obviously you brought up this particular story had really touched you about the
Mhm.
boy who had gone into witness protection. So is that something like you guys discussed about which angle to take, or is that something that Jesse kind of came in with saying, no, it's going to be a female centered story?
Yeah.
on this.
When I first read kind of a preliminary draft and also the film draft that Jesse had, it centered around the music industry and it was a female protagonist. And it was there was only one male, Romeo Pimp, there weren't two. So when we started kind of developing it, and I know that Jessie had her consultant, Jessa Crisp, and also Farron, who helped with dramaturgy, so on her end. But in terms of the discussions that we had together, was about splitting that up into two different male protagonists. Therefore, having a Shane, who was the more senior level trafficker, and where you could pose and to have the Ryan character have that element of doubt whether he was forced into it or whether, you know, he chose out of his own volition. And everything would come down to how the actor performed it as well. But that is why, you know, through the drafts, it became two male characters.
Brilliant, brilliant. And so speaking of Ryan and Shane, like there's so much about the relationship we just never get to fully know about. Like there's elements that are alluded to, like Shane helped Ryan out in some way. Their moms were friends. We talked about this in our review with Jaden about kind of the backstory that I kind of gave to them to their characters. That was never explicitly said. This is how this came to be. So so that in that case, did you ever like in other drafts, was there more explicit details about that relationship, or was it always meant to be a bit vague and kind of left on the periphery of you kind of just need to know the bits of their relationship? Or was there earlier drafts that gave more background details that may have swayed sympathy one way or the other for these characters?
Well, there has to be a big testament to Jessie McQueen and to Jack, her partner, because they worked on this and there are just so many pages that didn't make it to where it is now.
That's fascinating.
So many. And, you know, initially with being at the King Black Box, we've got very limited amount of space. So I was very I gave emphasis on it being a girl's bedroom, and that should there be and this is what the brilliance that is Jessie McQueen, and how the kind of the Tremblay, Mr. Tremblay, and then the memory stuff kind of pops up in her room, and then with all, you know, recounting what's happened at school or what was he like and what did he say, and then the jumping in time as well of kind of foreshadowing of the loss. So to answer the question of like the Shane and Ryan initially were one character, became two characters, their relationship got thicker and more broad and alive thanks to the two actors that played those two characters, Agape and Sam. You know, you could sense there were some shows where I was left feeling like, no, Ryan was in on it and the makeup is a truthful moment, that it was actually fake. But if you remember that moment when, you know, the character of Michaela is talking and saying there's a lot of deception, I mean, she could be deceiving too at that moment. So
true.
So you're left thinking there's so many different layers here for you to kind of go, well, what is truthful? And that's the kind of feeling we wanted to get, because I think if you're in it and you don't know who to trust and who to believe any longer. And that's where that came about, is do you trust Ryan? Do you trust Shane? Do you trust Michaela? Do you trust what they're saying? You know? You know, so yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the minute that makeup twist came about, the first time watching that, because it looked like because obviously we know it's makeup because it's a theater, but then the fact you then brought that in, the fact that in the second time watching it, the fact that we got to see Michaela fixing her makeup in an earlier scene, so you did a great job planting that Michaela has the makeup training to do that type of work, was so brilliant. And I mean, for you, like, Ryan is such a fascinating character that, like, the more I think about him, he just fascinates me because of how much there is to play in that character. Like, how did you go about ensuring with Agape that he didn't come across as just a mustache twirling, the man behind the curtain at the end of, haha, like, it was my plan all along to recruit you. And because like when you leave, like I'm left in feeling so mixed on like the way Agape plays the ending, and then there's so many different elements that you go back, and as you said, the who can you trust with the makeup and the text story about luring
Mhm.
her out, like so much of that like was just so wonderfully gray and messy. But how did
Mhm.
you and Agape go about like finding that? Because it could be so easy to paint Ryan in particular as a very Machiavellian character, almost just as I don't want to say evil, but just as manipulative as Shane is, for sure. So, like,
Yeah.
how did you and Agape go about pulling all that together?
Yeah, I think so. Touching on the point of the makeup and like
Mhm,
the character of Michaela and
mhm,
her having the cover up, that was in the script. So that
mhm,
definitely is testament to Jesse McQueen again
mhm,
for layering in all of those moments
mhm,
where you're seeing it in the peripheral. You're in this scene with Shane, and
mhm.
Shane's talking about all his mission in life and his plans and his
Dreams
dreams.
and plans, yeah.
Exactly. And then you see her in the corner of
Mhm,
the space, putting makeup on. It was, it's the same thing as the concealing moment of where he takes a photograph of our Jamie when she's
yeah.
getting undressed, or
Mhm,
being undressed after she's come in
mhm,
from a not so pleasant evening after
mhm,
the intermission. I think with the as a director, a lot of the work that
mhm,
I did with the actors was to make things be incredibly real. So we talked about what was written on the page, but we also talked about the moments before and
mhm,
where they were headed after. And so with Agape, talking about whether he was really falling in love or not.
mhm,
And I think to make any kind of story harder to experience is real. And
mhm.
it's a little bit like 10 Things I Hate About You, which is
A great
a
movie.
great movie, and we talked about that
Mhm,
in length with Jesse as well. I did as
mhm,
well. Is that feeling of he takes on, Patrick Verona takes on the kind of the game of trying to
mhm,
get her, and then in doing it he falls in love with her, and then he wants to get her out. Now if
yeah.
you recall, in front of the door when he does come out with the blood, he rushes
Mhm,
up to her and he says,
mhm.
"You got to go. Get out.
Yeah.
You got to
Mhm,
leave. No, I
mhm,
shouldn't have got you
mhm.
here.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have told you to come here." And he turns
Yes.
back. Now, if you look at it from that point of view,
Mhm.
then he had a moment of,
Yeah.
"I'm in the thick of this, but maybe you can leave right now, and you're
Yeah.
in a trap, and please get going."
Yeah.
So we definitely were conscious also to our casting, because we
Mhm.
cast a black actor.
Yeah.
And so, the stereotype in history with pimping
Mhm. Mhm.
has it been very skewed, that it's
Yeah.
very skewed statistics.
Mhm.
Whereas really and truly, those who are in those environments, it kind of crosses every single culture.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you,
Mhm.
the statistics lie very heavily on Indigenous girls and women going
Mhm.
missing.
Mm.
So I think the biggest thing that any production who takes this on
Mhm.
has to do is be incredibly conscious
Mhm.
and make sure that the audiences, when they are coming, are getting
Mm.
that information back to them. Just because Jamie happened to be white in our show does
Yeah.
not mean that it is necessarily. And in fact, with Jessa Crisp, and Jesse was talking to consultants,
Mhm.
having it's stereotyped as being only something that happens out in Asia, or
Mhm.
that this happens. So it's a conversation that needs to be had, because like it says in the play, a girl can, and these are real extracts that are read at the end of the play, the books that
Mhm.
he's holding are actually those excerpts being said of how to traffic. Like, they're
Those are real books? Like,
real books, sold on
oh my
Amazon.
I tried to look on Amazon to see if because I was like, "Those can't be real books
They're real
that"
books.
oh my
Yeah.
god. That's terrifying
And
that people can
those,
just order that.
yeah, exactly. So towards the end of the play, you have a moment where, Ryan is
Mm.
dictating out the steps of
Yes.
how to coerce someone.
Mhm.
Those are very real. Those are
Mhm.
you've got your Andrew Tates of the world, and
Oh,
you have
yeah.
people who are very public, and the fact that it's sold on Amazon is also something
Mhm.
that just makes me and my blood curl.
Yep.
So it's one of those
Mhm.
things that it's all of those things are the reason why we wanted to kind of shed the light. And me in particular, as a mother of two teenage boys,
Mhm.
I can see that they could be very prone to be coerced themselves into thinking that someone will come and execute some harm on their family if they don't do as they're told,
Mhm.
whether that's drugs, guns, or as in
Yeah.
the play says, you can only traffic a gun once, and you can traffic drugs,
Yeah.
but you can traffic a woman over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And it's so distressing, you know?
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh my goodness. And I mean, like, I remember watching the play, and the fact that you had Shane played by Sam as a white actor, I thought that was such a brilliant choice, because you're right. Like so many times in these crime shows that tackle this subject, it usually is put on like a minority group to play the pimp. So the
Mhm.
fact that you cast Sam in that role, who looks so ordinary. Like he could be any white guy walking down the street of the GTA. But
Mhm.
then, Sam's performance of getting those dead shark eyes all of a sudden was absolutely terrifying. But I remember watching that the first time and just went, brilliant casting choice, because once again, this play could there's such a fine line with the subject in this story, making sure it doesn't fall into caricature stereotypes. And the fact that you did such a good job of that is just absolutely outstanding. You
Thank
brought up
you.
the intermission. Was
Mhm.
it always a plan to have an intermission, or was there ever a consideration of doing it just as a straightforward, straight through one act, no breaks, no stops? The audience has no chance of escaping until house lights are back up and the show is over.
Yeah. The intermission was a point of discussion all the way up until dress rehearsal. And we switched where it was. We would have loved for it to have been a hot 95. Everyone
Hmm.
go home. Just
Hmm.
there was so many moving elements. It was such a technical show. As a
Yeah.
director on this particular show, I'm normally very performance driven initially, where I
Hmm.
do a lot of experimentation with my actors and a
Hmm.
lot of development and character development. And this one, I went straight into blocking,
Hmm.
straight into blocking. It was,
Yeah.
I only had 17 days in
What?
rehearsal. Mhm.
Oh my God.
Yes.
That's incredible.
Thank you.
17 days to put all that together. Oh my God.
Yeah. So, and I had very limited access to certain actors who had very busy schedules.
Hmm.
So I was working 8 hour, well, 7 hours, 7 hour days for 17 days, just like it would be a feature film. And I kind of
Hmm.
used it as that. I was like, if we're going to camera, what would I and how would I, where would I position my angles of my shots? So with a lot of the movement, I kept moving the actors so
Hmm.
that you would get kind of that feeling of an over the shoulder point of view, and
Yes.
then you would move it to the other one so that then you'd have
Yeah.
another over the shoulder. I made sure with my
Hmm.
design of my stage that there were
Hmm.
ample entrances and exits, because I had a lot of
Hmm.
people to move in and out, and having
Hmm.
these moments of like, that's what really excited me. It scared me
Hmm.
shitless, to be honest, when I knew I had very little time to do it. When I got the final script from Jesse, and I was like,
Hmm.
this is so tech heavy. I think we had something like, I don't know. I want to say, I don't know. I should have asked Kelsey to be specific on how many cues we
Oh
had, but our
goodness.
stage manager, absolutely incredible, because I think there was like 65 different cues, light
Oh my
cues,
God.
sound cues, phone dings. This was the most elaborate tech I personally have jumped in on
Hmm.
and embraced. And it was really fun to kind of switch the way I directed,
Hmm.
and just trust that I knew in my mind, like I could
Hmm.
see where the actors were going. I'd give them an
Hmm.
instinct pass. I'd go, okay, do the scene. Where would you go? And
Hmm.
on the to work with me as a director in indie
Hmm.
theatre, I have a very big stipulation for actors, which is they have to be 100% off book before I come in.
Mm.
Because
That
I
makes
find,
sense.
because I've done it so many years and so many productions,
Mm.
I've had like waste time when actors don't have the text. And then when it's something that's a world premiere, word
Mm-hmm.
perfect, off book, honor the playwright,
Mm-hmm.
because we need to get straight into it straight away. And I know how
Yeah.
much wasted time happens from people on book or just people like not having their lines off. And I got very, very, very fortunate with the caliber and
Mm-hmm.
professionalism of all of the actors. Because I've said that many times when I do a play and it never,
Mm-hmm.
ever happens. This time it did. And that's why it became such a tight, incredibly tight show that
Mm-hmm.
every single night was the same show.
That's
And that's
incredible.
rare in indie theater. That is very,
Mm-hmm.
very rare to have that.
Absolutely. I mean, the fact that you had them off book before you even started frees you up so much to
Yeah.
play and run those scenes. And then also the
Mm-hmm.
fact that we have 17 days. Like you got no time to waste on calling line. You got to be ready. Like that's yeah. Oh my gosh. Like just 17 days. That's still blowing
Yeah.
my mind that you're able to pull so much together. Because yeah, just the tech cues alone of that little light up on the balcony, and then you got the dings there and the cross cutting. Like I can't imagine what those 17 days are like, just the madness,
Oh,
the
it
sprint.
was, yeah, it was pretty intense. But we were really fantastic collective of humans and artists.
Mm-hmm.
I had incredible support by Lizzie, who was the intimacy coordinator, and she
Mm-hmm.
also took on movement and very much so helping. I have a personal relationship as an acting coach to
Mm-hmm.
Sam Wexler and Agape, and actually
Mm-hmm.
Jesse as well. But with Sam, I wanted something very specific. There was one aspect of in terms of development that I had considered at one point having boy girl, so the Michaela character and the Shane character with a mask on, like a neutral mask, so that you don't know
Oh.
who they are, so you don't, and like fully hooded, and so that you don't know who they are up until they come in, because when you read the script it says boy girl. You don't know that
Mm.
it's Shane or Michaela in those sections. It's just boy girl,
Okay.
boy girl. And so I wanted, and there was also an element of, there was like step one, and then,
Mm-hmm.
it tells you the different steps. And I had
Mm-hmm.
recorded it being like the anonymous voice so that I would
Mm-hmm.
link that in. So I wanted there to be very specifically stylized, the movement for boy girl. And so Lizzie came in. And again, such a phenomenal group of people who invested time and effort into this show because of the story and, Jesse behind it. But it was fun to see kind of the boy girl elements be stylized
Mm-hmm.
initially, and then the actors kind of started kind of loosening it up and
Mm-hmm.
and creating their own little dance, as it were, with it. So, which was fun. And then, being able to direct and have somebody who does the intimacy coordination just makes the room an incredibly safe space for
Yeah.
actors. And so
Mm-hmm.
that cuts down again a lot of time. I think our first rehearsal was,
Mm-hmm.
I handed it over to Lizzie. The first entire rehearsal, I sat back and they were onboarded on all that is de-rolling, intimacy, making sure that, because of such heavy material, again,
Mm-hmm.
like if there are any other people who are thinking about doing this production, it's heavy. It does
Yeah.
take a toll on you.
Mm-hmm.
And so make sure that you've got all the safeties in place for every single
Mm-hmm.
artist. And that includes those key creatives and those who are in, creative position as director or production, managers. And
Yeah.
it kind of affects everybody on a
Yes.
different day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, speaking of Lizzie, so something Jaden and I commented on in our review was how well you and Lizzie together handled and staged so many very intimate moments without like Jamie's first sexual experience, her changing in front of the audience, Michaela's interactions with Shane, and like just making sure nothing ever became voyeuristic or exploitative, and turning it into kind of a very different style show if you went the other way. So
Mm-hmm.
like how did you and Lizzie go about working with that, and particularly with Charlotte as Jamie? Like how did you go about creating trust and control in those scenes? Because so many people don't, or it's such a new position, the intimacy coordinator, that people are still learning who they are and the value they bring to a set, whether it's film or stage or anywhere on television. So like, how did you go about working with that? Because in only 17 days, like how did you, because you mentioned the first day of rehearsal, but just what was that staging process like to ensure nothing ever became exploitative or overtly sexualized?
Yeah, this is a teenage show. So for
Mm,
me, for example, when the intimacy scenes came, I added
mhm,
the condom being a moment
mhm,
so that if anyone was to watch the show and were teenagers, that there would be a
mhm.
moment of pause and reflection of, ah, let's go get that. And that kind of
Yes.
sells a lot of the where we're headed, just that
Mhm.
kind of symbol of
Yeah.
knowing what that means for all
Mhm,
of us who have ever had a first time.
mhm,
And I think my strategy as a director is I trusted Lizzie to have that dialogue and that intimacy with the actors and know that
mhm,
I was very present, involved in any kind of interaction that they had so that I could speak the same
mhm,
verbiage. I would always make sure that they checked in with each other every single day because every day changes. You might be feeling sick one day and another.
mhm,
Actually, Charlotte did for a while. So you have placeholders in place
mhm.
so that you're not, always doing the scene over and over again with the full intimacy. So you
Yeah.
kind of mark those moments. And in marking those moments, you actually develop even more intimacy with the person that you're working with. And that's what I,
Mhm,
realized and found out is that you don't have to have the full blown production,
mhm.
intimacy. And it's almost like fight choreography, which you
Yeah.
still do at the beginning of every show. There would be
Mhm,
intimacy coordination, beautifully done by our stage manager and run by our stage manager, Kelsey, is that, making sure that it's treated just like fight core. It has that
mhm,
same amount of dignity, grace, and you have to be word perfect. I remember
mhm,
saying to an actor during this process where when it got to that place and they left someone hanging because they didn't know their line immediately. And I was like, well, you've got to
mhm,
go over that passage over and over and over again until
mhm,
it is so rock solid before we
mhm,
even approach that scene again.
mhm,
Because you have to have the safety of the words to
mhm,
know what the movements are and when they're coming.
mhm,
And then, I give a lot of advocacy to
mhm,
actors. I've worked with actors for years and years now, over 20
mhm,
years as an educator. I'm a mentor to a lot of artists and writers and directors and filmmakers. And I know that giving space to take ownership of moments.
mhm,
And for Charlotte in particular, whenever I was working with her and rehearsing with her, I would ask her, where do you want to go from? Where do you want
mhm.
to start from? Where
Yeah.
do you want to go from? So that it was her decision to be like, no, I'd like to go back over this instead of
Mhm,
me being like, okay, well, we're going to go and do this now, and you've got to do this and you've got to do that.
mhm,
It's like, giving it, we're all artists together. We're all in it, the King Black Box doesn't receive any grant money. We don't get
mhm,
funding from the government. We're doing this out of the pure tenacity of being conscious artists and wanting to
mhm,
do good by our audiences and for me, my personally is to give opportunity and platform
mhm,
to artists and like for example for world premieres to happen and exist,
mhm.
Canadian ones,
Yeah.
because I chose Canada to be my home. It's the home of my
Mhm.
kids. And therefore, every breathing moment that I have, I dedicate to fostering and supporting, homegrown talent.
Brilliant. 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 Now, in your notes,
Mhm.
you mentioned about how you were able to speak with a retired or former undercover investigator who'd been in this, who'd been investigating this type of trafficking, human trafficking situation since the 1970s. And then you also mentioned that Jesse had come in and there was a bunch of pages that were cut. So between your conversations with the undercover investigator and then with Jesse's original script, were there any elements that you wish you could have incorporated into the show that either got cut for time or just that you felt it didn't quite fit this particular story that you were like, now that you've done the show after 17 days, and you look back and go, oh, I really wish we could have gotten that one particular scene back in, or that one element or that one tidbit that was given to me by the investigator.
No, there is absolutely nothing I would change of the art that we put up.
Brilliant.
It's funny because I gave my last note of direction on the night before closing night
Whoa.
to Charlotte. There was a moment, so quite a few reviewers discuss about the sharp sound that you hear, but that's written in the script. It's written that there's an abrupt sound and light change in certain moments. Okay, so everything you saw there was written in the script and was honored, right? There was the moment where a man appears in her bed.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And he's masked. And it was funny because the night before closing, because I was filming it. So I filmed the show. I'm a filmmaker. So I sat in second row during one of the shows, and I just like kind of snuck a whole footage of the show, which was really fun. But while I was watching it on screen, he did appear out of nowhere, which is how the script is. But just because of the space that we're in, how on earth am I going to get just all of a sudden someone appear in without you seeing them, even in a blackout, you still see movement. Yeah. So having a man appear in her bed because she's starting to feel the instinct of something being off. And later on, Tremblay says, hey, if you think that something's off, it might be off. Yeah. Right. Anyway, so I had them masked because it was Mr. Tremblay's character, even though it isn't Mr. Tremblay's character, it's just a person, a figure. Yeah. Anyway, he comes in, it's a lot sharp now as it's strobing lights, and it comes in because it's how it's written in the script. And he goes in, lies into her bed, she screams, and then he gets up and he leaves out of the mirror, which I left the mirror being a thing that you can go through symbolically. Anyway, I said to Charlotte, after that, because she gets scared, and then she would go back to almost normal, and she would open the door and she'd go, Connor, as if like, are you here? And then while I was watching on the screen, I was like, oh, for fuck's sake, I've got a note for her, because I seriously don't think I had a note or I would change anything, right? At all throughout the whole process. Not the costumes, nothing. I would keep it all the same, apart from this one moment where I said to her, can you, on closing night, can you scream out to Con and Connor out of the door like you're scared? You know when you're at home and you think you see something and you get scared and then you're like, is somebody here? Someone at home? Yeah. And I was like, that would have made so much more sense and been less jarring. And I think we would have gotten less amount of moments from reviewers where that particular moment was like, well, why was that there? Everyone, you know, there were some audience members who were like, why was the strange man? I get the whole thing, but why the strange man in her bed? And I was like, because she's starting to feel like something's off, and the unease is there, and it's written in the script. It would be lovely for him to just magically appear, but we can't do that. So she did it on the last night, and then it was like a perfect show. I seriously was a perfect show. I've done theatre lots and lots of times, and I can tell you that closing night was just something else. It was something special. It really was.
Oh, that's like just thinking about that moment, because I know Jaden and I, we talked about it, and that was one of the notes that you sent me when we did our little voice memo back and forth to each other, because we discussed that moment. And I mean the minute you said it was all about the unease, I was like, of course, that's exactly it. It's that ever growing presence in this, like in your life, that cloud that is growing and gestating. And I mean, just her calling out to her brother afterwards, like I always read it as that moment of you're in the house alone. Because I mean, now having house sat now a few times out in the country, and it's dark at night, and there's nobody else around. It's just you and the cat in the house, and it's a big house. Like I don't know, like in a condo, like in my condo village, you feel safe because it's, you know, you're 14 floors up. There's nobody else coming to come after you. But when you're alone in the country in a big house and it's making sounds and it's you and the cat, like there were like even last night I popped my head out the door as I was getting ready to fall asleep, and because I heard something. I'm not sure if it was the cat coming down the hall, but just that moment of what is out there. Like I always read that as that great moment of scare of there's it's like, well, who is there? Because she mentions that like he was away at a hockey tournament, mom's working nights,
Mhm,
like she
mhm.
really is alone in
Yeah,
that
she's
moment.
so alone in that moment.
Yeah.
And then, her instinct of being like, nope, I'm not ready. I'm okay. Like
Yes.
just all these little tiny little
Mhm.
nuances and things.
It's so beautifully human.
Yeah, so much so. And the casting process for this
Mhm.
particular show was something I will never forget. I saw
Mhm.
so many actors.
Mhm.
There would have been so many different iterations. Some
Mhm.
actors came through that were French speakers, and I was like, man, we should be doing this at the French theatre at the same time, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, it really is. It was really something special. The actors all
Mhm.
were just really, really beautiful, and they gave so much of themselves and
Mhm.
the heart to these characters, so much so that the critics were saying couldn't see anybody else playing these roles. There's so much. It
Yeah.
just felt real. So that's what I
Yeah.
try and do with my work as much as
Mhm.
possible. Make it raw, make it real.
Yes.
And make it cinematic. The theater that I try
Mhm.
and do is cinematic theater.
Mm. Well, I mean, I could totally see this becoming a great indie film. Absolutely. Like this story, like, and and as you said, the way you directed it, like just the cross cutting that's in the script and the way you staged it, I was like, in the back of my head after watching the second time, I was like, this, I could easily see this becoming almost like Doubt when Patrick Shanley got to do Doubt on film. And then after he did it on film, it's like, how do you go back and rewatch the play the same way now that you've seen it done on film? Like, it's just fascinating. Like, this is just an incredible piece that I think works on stage, but then also in a cinematic
Mhm.
sense as well. But speaking of sets and mirrors, which one of the most brilliant moments is that first time they come through the mirror on stage. And you mentioned that you utilized recycled materials like wood pallets and things like that. But when you're
Yes.
designing a piece,
Mhm.
was there ever a concept or a visual idea that you wanted to explore for Romeo Pimp that didn't make it to the final version of the set? Because even like the ceiling had all those beautiful news articles and posters that I didn't catch a lot the first time, but the fact I got to see it the second time, I was able to look up and read all about the halfway houses and everything else that
Mhm.
gave me that tied more back into the Shane and Ryan side of the story was
Mhm.
fascinating to me. So, like, was there any element that you were originally conceiving with the show that you were like, oh, if only I had a bit of a bigger space, or oh, if we only could redesign it slightly differently, could we do something?
Yeah, yeah. I think for me, the newspapers on the top were our full season from last year and this season. So that when I was talking to you about the fact that our first programming were the first newspapers that were placed on the ceiling were for our
Mhm.
first show. For The Glory of Living by Rebecca Gilman, a Pulitzer
Mhm.
Prize winning piece, a nominated piece, sorry.
Mhm.
And so that dealt with IPV. So those newspaper
Mhm.
articles that you see kind of in the center of the ceiling for that show. And then each show I kind of built out as production designer, I built out on the ceiling. And so there were ones for Halfway Homes that was for George F.
Mhm.
Walker's piece, actually. But it's great that you felt a tie in to potentially the Shane and Ryan scene that's
Mhm.
really cool. And then, obviously we had articles on those who have gone, girls who've gone missing
Mhm.
and built out. And I like a black box. I like a black box. I don't think there's enough of them. I think that it's incredibly versatile what you can do.
Mhm.
I like an intimate space. I think that's because that's all I have to offer as a place to
Mhm.
make art at the moment. Although I have been in talks with people to maybe broaden out and go
Mm.
bigger, but we'll see. But I like reusing stuff. So the cost of the
Mhm.
build was $0.
Oh, that's amazing.
I think the only thing that cost money was the mirror. And that's it.
Okay.
The rest was all reusable things. So I found the pallets to make
Mhm.
the walls on the street next to where we are,
Oh,
right at the convenience store,
yeah.
which then I painted. And then I had crates left over from a previous set, which became the shelves.
Mhm.
And then I used this natural riser, which became the bench.
Mhm.
And so I built a faux with Grisha, who's my partner and who's the executive
Mhm.
director at the King Black Box. He built my design. I come up with the vision. He does all the labor and does it so brilliantly.
Yeah.
Then the window was all done with reclaimed wood. So we found it on Marketplace. So
Wow.
all of that was done in reclaimed wood. It was actually
Mhm.
cedar, so it's so lovely. When you cut cedar, it smells so nice.
Mhm.
So everything was done, and then the door I took off from one of the doors in the backstage area, or the one with the window,
Yeah.
and I wanted to use that, like, for her to be on the phone and do that
Mhm.
voice message to see her. I wanted that kind of blown out so you could see her, and then at the end of the play she's back in that same spot, and if you were
Yeah.
in a certain seat in the house you would get that same image of her
Mhm.
being on the phone with the shadow on that
Oh, that's cool.
door. Yeah, no, I again, like, for what it was, I wouldn't change a thing. If I had a budget, listen, all our shows at the King Black Bus are, around 5,000 to 8,000, no more. So
Wow.
we don't have a big budget. We don't, we gift all our rehearsal space for free. We don't, like,
Mhm.
like, it's, I don't know. It's just we try and do it on the most bare bones
Mhm.
budgets that you could possibly have. And, we'll be, when we go into the TAPA consideration, we're up
Mhm.
against people who have 120,000 a year.
That's
Give me
wow.
120,000 a year, you'll see some other kinds of design happen,
Mhm.
you know?
But your design was so great. Like once again, it's a great example of you don't need the hugest budget in the world to make a big impact with your space. Like that's like the amount of
Thank
layers that you
you.
brought into that set. I mean, you and I have talked about the details that you wove into this piece with all your great Easter eggs and symbolisms that you put in there,
Mhm.
like even down to, like the choice of the book that she puts the
Oh,
card
yeah.
in,
Mhm.
all about the 100 deadliest creatures, and it's got the shark
Yeah.
on the front, or there's the Romeo and Juliet DVD that's
Yeah,
tucked
that's
away by
mine.
the
Yeah.
yeah, great, a classic,
Yes. Yeah.
or even like all the VHSs up on the shelf, like all those.
Yeah, or even behind you right now on your picture, on the
Yeah,
background, you
yeah,
see the missing girl posters.
yeah,
Those are
yes.
actually missing girls. And
Oh
so
wow.
they're the missing girl posters that
Hmm.
a page comes out and places
Yes.
down the wall, the black
Hmm.
wall, and then ends that mosaic up,
Yeah.
and you see that first moment of
Hmm.
all of those posters in the back there.
Hmm.
You see them for the first time when Shane's character says to Michaela, or Boy's character says to
Hmm.
Girl, would you do me a favor? It's only this
Hmm.
one time. This is
Yeah.
the only time that you do it. And you open the door and you see all of
Hmm.
these kind of ghosts, because those ghosts
Yeah.
are for real missing. One
Yeah.
of those who's behind you was missing 2 days before I went to print my posters. So
Whoa.
2 day I added this
Hmm.
element 2 days before opening, and she'd gone missing 2 days prior to that. So they were real
Oh
people.
my God.
Yeah.
That's that just breaks my heart even more.
Yeah. Yeah, but even things like, the hockey stick and the hockey bag, that was all
Yes.
fun stuff that I, as a
Hmm.
director,
Hmm.
talking to the actors and being like, where do you think you would have been before this? Or
Hmm.
obviously it had that he had hockey practice and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So why not see it on stage? So why doesn't he
Yeah.
come in on it? And then,
Yeah.
like, later on when it's springtime,
Hmm.
to see the basketball outfit.
Yes.
And then it, not many people caught on because there's so many different elements happening
Hmm.
all at once. But around the window, I had a
Hmm.
change of scene, a change of flowering by the
Yes.
window. So it went from
Yeah.
being autumn leaves
Yeah.
to then it becoming white like snow, and
Yeah.
then it went to spring flowers. So
I
that
caught
it
that the
had it,
second time.
that yeah, it had the seasons changed
Yeah.
throughout the piece, so you can feel those time jumps as well.
Mhm.
Um,
Oh, the detail.
so those kinds of little things, and again, like you
Mhm.
said, that the book that she puts her Valentine's Day card in, sort of,
Mhm.
it's just like, yeah, the things to be
Mhm.
afraid of, all
Yeah.
of those kind of things there were. And then for me, adding that mirror, that was something I, as a director and production
Mhm.
designer, brought to the table,
Mhm.
to have that, because otherwise I was like, how did people just appear? So,
Right.
I thought of it being through that looking glass kind of
Mhm.
vibe, and
Mhm.
have it come through a mirror
Mhm.
as an additional spot to come
Mhm.
through.
Brilliant. So, diving deeper into this. So, like, how do I put this? So, like, when you're doing these symbolisms and these Easter eggs, like I know, like when I talk to my parents who are just generic theater goers, like they like to support the arts, they'll come out and see a show, they'll watch a TV show or a film, and I'll go, "Oh, look at that symbolism there." Of you watch The Crown. Diana's getting it was her first episode up at Balmoral. She's out there with Philip hunting a stag, and she's got a stag on her sweater as well. And then by the end, they're cross-cutting, talking about her great trip to Balmoral, and at the same time, they're mounting the stag on the walls. So, like the levels of symbolism. Like I was talking to my dad about, it, and he went, "Oh, I just saw a stag. Like I just saw the story coming out." So like I know for me, like I get frustrated because I go, how do you miss the details? Because like everything is a choice in art. Like everything has a reason to be there. Like it's not just because you decided one day to put them in white sweaters. There's levels to the, as you said, as you told me, there are levels to that sweater of the sheep and the lambs to the slaughter and all that stuff. But some people would just totally like just go, Michaela and Jamie are now in similar clothes. They're on that similar journey, but not go into that deeper level. So like, how do you, as a director, manage that and reconcile that? Sometimes those details will not be picked up right away because like, I know for me, like I get frustrated when I talk to like my parents or people because I'll go, "Oh, did you notice, the Alice in Wonderland VHS in the back corner?" And Jaden was like, "No, I missed that one entirely." But it's like, but I'm like, it was right there. Like it's right on the TV. Like it's sitting right on top of the TV. Like you can't miss it. It's so there. It's not just a sweater. So it's like, how do you go about reconciling? Because you're so great at layering so many details into your work that it's just filled with so many great materials. Like, how do you go about reconciling that? Sometimes it will be not picked up on. Like you put so much work into layering it in.
I don't think I get in any kind of way, the most rewarding thing is to, like on opening night, I had someone grab hold of my hand as I was walking towards the lobby in tears and said, "I have to give you this art piece that I got in an auction." And it was a painting done by a survivor of human trafficking. And she's in tears and I'm holding her hand and I'm like, "Oh, thank you, but you don't have to gift me anything. That sounds so beautiful. Do you want to describe it to me?" And she says, "You will never guess." And she's crying. And like, I start getting emotional with her because I can feel that it means something to her. She's like, "It's a music box and it's a ballerina who's got blindfolded." And my whole theme of my music with my sound engineer, with Jeff, was a music box. And so I joined in tears with her, realizing that a layer was placed in there by something way outside of who I am and what I do. And it touched that person in that way. And they picked up on the music box, and Brennan's character, got him to as Connor, to turn that music box just in one moment. But the rest is the theme of Jamie's theme throughout is a music box sound that then gets distorted. And it's those moments, like I don't. They're in a way, they're for me to know and to hope that some people will resonate and see. But I don't think I will. I don't get frustrated. That's not something that they just kind of start flowing out of me while I'm creating. And I love when someone picks it up, but I also love the person who comes out and says, "Oh, this needs to be in every high school," or, "Oh, I'd never heard the term before," or, all of those different moments make it so that, okay, maybe they didn't see the change of season, or who cares, or the music box, or I interlaced photographs of Charlotte and Charlotte's mum on the back wall. You've got it in the back. In the back there behind Agape. And then and the same thing with the blocking in Act 2, all my blocking was the same as Act 1. So when he first comes in the room, Agape's character, as Ryan, comes into the room to her bedroom, when after she's been trafficked, the blocking is exactly the same. He comes through the window, he stumbles forwards, he comes back, she stands up, she measures herself on him, but instead of measuring herself on him, she's touching his face where the bruise was, and
Yeah.
he's having the same reaction. And then she goes around her space, and he says in the first scene, he's like, give me a tour. And this is also because that's how Jesse wrote it, is very, very similar. And so I was like, well, it makes my life easier. Blocking stays the same.
Yeah.
So in the first time she is with Ryan, she goes up to her stuffed animal and says, close your eyes, gets her stuffed animals and throws them down into a hamper.
Yeah.
That was my design and what I wanted there. And but then I was like, well, if I've done it there, she's going to have to throw something off her shelf. And so she grabbed the books and threw her books down across the ground. So the same action, but different interpretation, so this like kind of mechanism and all of these different layers that maybe, your audience don't necessarily pick up on, they feel it,
Yeah.
They feel when every single, I don't think there was an inch of the production that hadn't been kind of finessed and touched on, like you said about the woolly sweaters.
Yeah.
That again, like as the costume designer and production designer, same hat, I, went to Valley Village and I was just like, what do I get? And I was like, I wanted red hoodies for the characters that were going to be taking everything, so dehumanizing her space. And I wanted that to be red because of the posters behind you, the missing posters are red and white, but also the pimping books are also red and white.
Yes.
So that theme there was something that I picked up on really quickly and wanted to run with. And then I found, I was going through the sizes of the actors, going through Valley Village and going, okay, well, I have to take this red sweater and then this red sweater. But they all magically were the perfect sweaters for each of the characters, And like when it got to Tremblay, it was like a golf sweater. And I was like, fucking great, amazing. And then when it got to having the girls and having them, the character of Michaela, how when you're watching at the first, you're kind of looking at this sweet little Jamie character who's like, bubblegum and popcorn, candy floss and unicorns. How is she going to get to where this girl's going to be?
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, well, I have to have them in white because I want them to be the victims. And then I was looking so I was like, white hoodie. I was looking Valley Village. And then I went and I saw these two white fluffy things. And as soon as I picked them up, I started crying. I went, lambs to slaughter.
Yeah.
And that's what art is. It's a flow. It's a conversation that you're having that's happening with the moment. That's why I love it being so groundling and raw and low budget, is that you just got to riff with everything like jazz, it's like an improvisation. And then you have these magical moments where you're like, what, goosebumps all over, going, they're lambs to slaughter. And then, making it so that she gets in nylons for when she's going out. She's wearing the nylons all through the play, but then she gets in her dress and she gets out of her dress and she gets the white dress on the white dress. There you go. That girl is, gifted, it just so happened. And again, another universe crazy moment where Charlotte came in with that dress and Jesse's like, I have the exact same one at a bigger size.
No.
And I was like, well, that's great. Bring it in. And then, perfect. There's one for Juliet. There's one for Charlotte. And they were the same dress. But again, it's those kind of, so, the audience can know that, but not know that. And that's our little secrets. It's fun having secrets. And then it's fun meeting people like you who do pick up on all of the things. And, when I watched your show, and I think that you've got a really great mind, I hope that you start writing as a critic. I think you have.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, I think you really pick up on a lot of different layers, a lot of symbolism. For somebody on a first watch to have got as much as you did was absolutely impressive. Really impressive.
Thank you. Thank you. Question about some symbolism there. When Paige is doing the witch scene, is that Into the Woods? Was that Last Midnight, that the intro to Last Midnight? Because I listened to it the first time, I went, can't be. And then the second time watching, I went, no, I'm 99% sure that's Last Midnight from Into the Woods.
Yeah, it
Brilliant.
was Into the Woods. Yes,
Yeah.
it was at one point she would go shh and then start the song and then
Mhm.
like stop, and then Athena again. I give a lot of place for back and forth with artists. She was like, I just feel like it's that moment, like Hamlet sees
Mhm.
the ghost. It's just like
Yeah.
this moment of
Mhm.
stop. And so, because Charlotte is in that doorway, she was like,
Yes.
what if I do like shh and I see her and I
Mhm.
stop? And I was like, that's
Mhm.
perfect. It's even less for people to know what it is, that
Yeah.
she's the witch in it.
Yes.
But yeah, that was a fun one as well.
Mhm.
And then, other things like putting in Prodigy song,
Mhm.
play my
Mhm.
game, you know, you're a victim, da 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 da, it's
Oh my god! Well, the
all
music cues, like,
works.
oh,
Yeah.
they were just so brilliant. The minute you did "I Dreamed a Dream" and you played the end of that song, my brain went, "Okay, we got choices and layers here that we're going deep on this." The minute you played that song montage, I went,
Yeah.
"Okay, there's so much
Well,
going
it as
on."
well, like in the script, it says "The dreamed I dream comes and plays," but then like sitting with that song, I was
Mhm.
like, it has to be this lyric at the end.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it has to just be that. And it has
Mhm.
to just go off right there.
Yes.
And I worked with Jeff Steger, who did the sound design,
Mhm.
and I worked with him on Assassin's Creed, and so we have a really great relationship. I thought he did an absolutely fantastic job. There was like a theme song for every time it was boy girl, so that it
Mhm.
moves the audience before they even know that they're going to have to shift.
Yeah.
There's a music sound to shift them. Yeah, it was so much fun. And again, that was me one day I went over his house and we kicked it for about 4 hours together, having some wine and some sushi. And then he brought all of it ready to go for tech. And that was it. It was ready to go. And I wouldn't change a thing. I
Mhm.
absolutely, again, it's in the script that there's a
Yeah.
jolting sound and it's
Mhm.
supposed to jolt you and it's supposed to be like this kind of horror,
Mhm.
string craziness, bombastic
Yeah.
jolt to the system. It's written in the script. And that I love that he kept that and he kept true to what,
Mhm.
I always try and honor the playwright and true to what is written.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Brilliant, brilliant. So something Ryan and I were talking about later on, and I kept saying to him, like, just how you know unfinished the story feels because it doesn't resolve at the end. And then I was saying to Ryan, he were talking about it, and I said, I hope that they do a sequel to this, to do a follow-up piece to explore, because so much of the stories that we hear about are how people get lost and brought into that world, but the how do they come out and how do they move forward is a story kind of that doesn't always get as much attention in detail, because it's so much, it's so much of another story that trying to get it all into one story, it can become, once again, become very truncated, very after
Hmm.
school moral special. We got 40 minutes, we got to get them in, get them out of that situation in a very timely manner. But I was saying to Ryan, so I was going to ask you, like, have you and Jesse ever talked about like a potential follow-up piece of like, how does Jamie, if she does, once again, that's the big question. Does she try? Is there a potential sequel chance for this story to explore what it's like trying to come out of that world?
Yeah, I think that would definitely, the IP lives with Jesse McQueen.
Mhm.
So the adaptation into a film, which would definitely probably have a lot more to
Mhm.
unpack, would
Yeah.
definitely probably address all of those things. It's funny because
Mhm.
they did joke around. I heard Sam and Jesse saying that during Rap Party that we would all sit down and we would write a sequel and then a prequel of this particular piece.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it definitely is a large story.
Mhm.
It I kind of like that it's left kind of open ended for
Mhm.
this particular, for
Mhm.
a, for a,
Mhm.
3 act structure of
Yeah.
a piece. When I first approached Jesse, Jessie had written a short play for my festival, playwright festival that we held. And she did a piece called Hey Lauren. And Hey Lauren, the girl goes missing. And in fact, she ends up dead. And so it was a one act. And that's the reason why when I was thinking about, you know, what we were going to program and who in particular could write this particular piece, Jessie had already written this one act where this girl goes missing. And I was like, this makes me it sounds like a Romeo Pimp situation. So for me personally, I thought, and I was like, you know, she ends up dead. That's how I.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then, you know, that's in there in my direction because I have them wearing black. As soon as she's gone missing, a lot of more statistics are girls go missing and they never turn up again. You don't get that end of story. So why should we give that end of story when the majority of people going through this are going through exactly where we went up to and then nothing. And that's painful.
It's so painful. It's so painful. And walking away, the pain that I felt walking home the second time was even greater than the first time because you're so wanting it to be resolved. I so applaud you for not resolving.
I think that's the biggest thing is I just don't think if we resolved it, then it's painting a picture that's not realistic. There are those who get out. Yes, 100%. And that is its own story. Absolutely. And there are people like Jessa Crisp and there are people who are writing books and have written books and having those moments of agency to and I don't know, bravery. I don't even know if that's the right word to use. Like it's but to be honest with you, the majority of families, they get up until this point and then that's it. And that's really the truth of it, is that there is no end and there is no resolution and you don't know. And you don't know if she's missing. You don't know if she's alive because mothers would be sitting there going, I don't know if she's out there somewhere. And you'd hold hope that they are somewhere alive somewhere. But under what world are they living in that makes you feel awful? How do you grieve that as a parent? How do you deal with that as a best friend? How do you look back as a school teacher and go, I wish I had done something sooner and braver? So these are moments of reality. And I think going any other way with it would have just felt a little Disney to me.
Yes, exactly. Disney, Degrassi, high school-y, after school special, that so easy to get out. Speaking of off ramps for this piece, the one point where I was like, okay, I think I see an off ramp for Jamie in this story, and that's Paige's dad or stepdad, I should say, Rick, because you talk about him at the beginning. You set up that he is a police officer, and then he comes back at the end. He's still unseen, but we know that he comes back because he ends up being a client of Jamie's. So was there ever discussion in the rehearsal room of, is he working undercover or is he actually actively cheating on Paige's mom and therefore not a safe escape option for Jamie or the audience? Like, was there a bigger discussion about that? Because like that was the one point in the story, because I knew we were getting toward the end of the play. And all of a sudden you bring back this periphery character that we've heard about. And in fact, you really emphasize that he is a cop. That I went, okay, there's the off ramp. We got the off ramp for the end of the play that we can get this wrapped up. I mean, the trauma's still there. Jamie's still going to have tons of trauma to deal with, but she has an off ramp to get out. So, like, was there a discussion about like what was going on with Rick as a character? Like, was he the safe off ramp that Jamie just doesn't utilize, or was he someone that can't be trusted?
I think the way Jessie wrote this and how she has like put the perspective on it is that right from the get-go you hear Paige's reaction to this new guy in her mum's life, right? She doesn't quite like him. And what do we say about our instincts? What are our gut instincts about people?
Trust it.
Trust your gut instincts, right?
Yeah.
So he's introduced in that manner, right? Yes, because he's got a profession that is seemingly, one that will be protecting. And therefore it gives that false hope that could happen. But it also opens the door in that moment for Shane to be able to say, oh shit, it's a cop. And then she's like, yes. And she's like, really? It's a cop? To Ryan. And then Ryan's like, yeah. And he's like, who gives a fuck? We get cops. We get lawyers. We get politicians. We get, like, come on, just look at Jeffrey Epstein. Like, let's really look at what the world is and who we're meant to trust. And I don't think that again takes it to this other place of like, oh, and now we're going to tie it all up nicely. And she's got the safety of going home. But in fact, that puts you in a place of like, oh, wow, yeah, we can finally get free. But then not, because of who he is and what he's done. And the fact that she goes in there, right?
Yes.
So, you know, you gotta look at the human being and the types of humans. We've got to look at those types of people who, you know, think of it. If there's somebody in the audience who has made a choice and gone into a motel room and made a poor choice, that's letting them know, yo, maybe you shouldn't be going into that motel room. Yeah. Hi. Yeah. You're seen.
We see you. Yeah.
We see you. Right? Because you got to remember that if this were to get picked up and we put it in, you know, a larger scale, there would be people who might be brought along by their partners' wives, and they would have a moment of reflection to unpack.
Yes.
So the education
I can
is
imagine
not
how
just
being in the audience, just having that
100%.
The mirror.
That's what theatre is, right? It's, yeah, exactly. And again, it's not just. This isn't just like a high school educational moment.
Yeah.
This is a reckoning.
Yes.
Kind of play.
Yeah.
It was treated that way so that it didn't pull the punches, that it went to the reality, and that it honored those who have experienced this, who are experiencing this, and hopefully give parents and children and loved ones a place to look at for the signs, and friends to look at. Because the more people I speak to, the more we've had a couple of people come from out of the audience being like, I think my friend was trafficked. I think they were trafficked. These are all signs that I saw, right?
Oh, that's devastating to hear.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's those moments of reflection. So yeah, that would be a different iteration for sure.
Yeah. Rick was the one character where I saw that and I was like, this is going to make or break, because if they go the resolution route of he's the way out, then it's that thing of, as you say, it then drifts into the high school special of we wrap it up with a nice bow. We have that Deus Ex Machina character that can save the day for the entire piece and leave the audience going resolved. With the fact that Jesse and you were like, nope, we're gonna give Shane that great monologue about everybody who he can bring in, and it's like you can't trust a single one of them because the world's gray. It's not clean. It's not black or white. It's all gray.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
God.
And
yeah.
It's the point of view for me anyway was of mothers. You know, I think a great responsibility when you become a mum, you think of all the children of the world, and you imagine anybody going through this situation and it being anybody's child. You have to kind of depict it or to place it from that point of view. And then, you know, for example, having in the first act, you know, all of a sudden Jesse's character come out in black, and you know, she's covered and she picks up the toy and she's dealing with the room with grief before you even know anything's going to happen. But kind of flash forwards back, if you will. You know, I think it has to be, you know, those are someone's child that have gone missing, you know? And it can happen to anyone. right?
Yeah. Yeah. I will say something I really did appreciate about the piece, something that you and Jesse clearly brought together is you never made Jesse's character, the mom, ever feel two-dimensional or naggy. Like I kind of like that, like kind of like that stereotypical TV mom of,
Hmm.
they're so absent-minded because they're off doing work and they can't focus here. In fact, you did make her an active character in the story, and that she does try to connect.
Hmm.
And it's not that she does anything wrong to lead Jamie down this path. It's just one of those ships in the night, that one moment of miscommunication or lack of communication is just, I just thought was so brilliant. Once again, you brought such a beautiful human piece to life where these characters all felt real and lived in. No one felt stereotypical or cookie cutter basic. Every
Hmm.
one of these characters felt lived and real. So that was just something that I wanted to
Thank
give big
you.
kudos to that.
Yeah, thank you, thank you. I mean,
Mhm.
I think Jessie as the mum. It was funny because we auditioned quite a few mums,
I was gonna say, did she
and
always want to play the mom, or was that like a
she
last
didn't.
minute
No,
casting?
she did not. Jack and her didn't.
Mhm.
Had not said that. We're going to do this play with you guys, and we want to be in it. They
Right.
didn't do that. We auditioned Tremblay's. We auditioned Lisa's, and for
Mhm.
me, because I've known Jessie for a while,
Mhm.
and I had seen didn't see it in the flesh, but I'd seen that she had been the mother in Little Women
Mhm.
with Ren Theatre. And so I knew that she had that the capability of being cut from a cloth of motherhood. But
Mhm.
I always saw Lisa as a young mum.
Mhm.
And whether she was like in like age young, but
Mhm.
a young energy, right? I'm
Yeah.
a young energy with my kids, like
Yeah.
my teenage boys, and even when they're younger, like, I'm like, who's your best friend? Hey,
Mhm.
mommy, let's kick it, let's put some music on and let's dance. Like, I'm that type of person. So in terms of how I would like to direct characters as
Mhm.
things that kind of come out of me in a certain way,
Mhm.
for all of the characters, in fact. But with Jessie, it was a no-brainer for me. So I sat across from her one
Mhm.
coffee shop day and I said, "You're the mum," and she was like, "What do you mean?" It's like, "You're the mum," and we got emotional together, and it's been a beautiful journey because,
Mhm.
again, it's like, I looked at with the set is to do like Clarissa Explains It All. And I know a lot of
Mhm.
you are too young to know what Clarissa Explains It All is, but there was like a moment in time in the 90s where like TV sets like Dawson's Creek and
Yeah.
Clarissa Explains It All, Alec Mack, and all of that were where boys would
Mhm.
climb through the window. And it would be this kind of set,
Mhm.
right? It's a sitcom set.
Yeah.
And when I started working with Jessie as the mom, the Gilmore Girls came to mind.
Mm.
And
Yes.
so I added some elements into my set that were more of the Gilmore Girl vibe. And that
Mhm.
particular first scene, how I
Mhm.
blocked it, was very much how Lorelai is with Rory,
Mhm.
right? She'll come cross-legged on the bed and just be
Mhm.
almost a kid with her. So, those kind of iconic movie, TV references, like even
Mhm.
Scream is the same thing,
Yes.
right? It's a girl's
Yeah.
bedroom that he comes through the
Yeah.
window.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Ginny and Georgia did it in season one. In the first episode, they had the character coming through the window. It's a trope I think we because it gets creepier the more
It's so creepy.
it
It's
is.
so creepy.
It's so creepy. Like it works in a horror movie because it's meant to be creepy.
Yeah.
But yeah, watching it, yeah, still seeing it done today in certain rom coms. It's like, or those type of sitcoms. It's like, is this something we should still keep doing? But the fact you did it so well, the fact that it became such a great Romeo and Juliet
Yes.
homage of Romeo on the balcony, I was like, the minute I saw that come through the window, I was like, perfect. We're
Mhm.
getting right into the Shakespearean
Yeah.
Romeo trope.
Ryan, Ryan,
Yeah,
Ryan, Ryan.
yeah,
Hey,
and
Ryan, Ryan, Ryan.
that's such a beautiful. Once again,
Romeo,
the human moment of that,
Mhm.
of the text messages, and just sitting on the balcony saying his name,
Mhm.
like just the humanity of this piece.
Mhm.
It just felt so real. But
Mhm.
did you always plan for it to be, because in your note you mentioned 2009 as kind
Mhm.
of the time period you wanted it set. Was there talk about making it more modern, like
Mhm.
post pandemic, or was it always that you wanted it to be a bit further back? So like phones were just new, kind of learning this whole cell phone texting fad.
Yeah. It's tricky to have any play with a phone, and
Hmm.
especially one that's a text phone.
Yeah.
If we were gonna go that like present day,
Hmm.
we would probably need projector screens and all that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So for this one, it placing it in 2009, we did have a length discussion, and my set design pulls
Hmm.
everything from hand-me-downs from her mum's
Hmm.
generation. So you've
Yeah.
got you got the 80s, the 90s. And
Yeah.
again, because I spoke to the undercover cop and he gave
Hmm.
me a lot of fodder even before I went to Jesse and spoke to Jesse. I wanted to kind of have that. It's been happening. It's in the GTA
Yeah.
for generations now.
Yes.
And so I wanted that room to feel like it's kind of lost in time, or it
Mhm.
is timeless.
It was totally timeless.
Oh, good. I'm glad.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think it just, and also being so creative with how
Mm.
Jesse handled the text
Mhm.
of them voicing out the text and speaking the
Yeah.
text. Having something that's a throwback for a whole generation of our audience, of them seeing something that they grew up with and knowing what it means to run
Mm.
out of minutes, and having to
Yeah.
phone on the home phone and call me on the home phone, because it gave just more layers to
Mhm.
the musicality of the piece and the
Yeah.
movement of the piece. I love the scene where, Jamie's on the phone with Paige and then mum comes on with her on the phone being like, night
Yeah.
girls, don't stay on too
Yeah.
long. Like, how many
Yeah.
times did we all experience that? I know the newer generations don't know what that
They
is.
don't. The landlines are like
Not a
that's
thing.
not a shared thing. Like I can
No.
the stories I could tell about landline phones in my house.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
if we were to go the other way, there's a whole moment in time where webcams became a problem, and
Mhm.
girls getting coerced
Yeah.
through webcams. So the more you move in time, the more
Mhm.
it gets more sophisticated in the
Mhm.
ways that girls are, coerced and
Yeah.
trapped into these environments. And I
Yeah.
think we would have to talk about those things, and we'd
Right.
have to go there with
Mhm.
those. With
Mhm.
it being nowadays, like, this is what the undercover cop said to me, was that, he's very scared for the new generations, just
Mhm.
how sophisticated now the pimp control can be
Yeah.
because of the online aspect of
Mhm.
it.
Yeah.
At that time where we place it, 2009, you're still
Mhm.
early infancy of social media. There's not
Mhm.
much that, yes, there's Facebook, but it's in its
MySpace.
infancy. MySpace, yeah, we all had a
Yeah.
MySpace. I think mine's still somewhere out there. Yeah, I think if it had been present day, you're looking at a higher production value of
Absolutely.
piece.
Mhm.
So, as we were, pretty much up until opening night,
Mhm.
still in the writer's room with this piece,
Mhm. Mhm.
we had to make it something that we were able to pull off
Mhm.
convincingly with the limited amount of budget,
Mhm.
resources, and time.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, where did you even find that old computer? Like the minute I walked into the theater and saw that old brick desktop computer, I went, I'm getting flashbacks to using that type of computer right
Yes.
away. And once again, such a smart decision because if you'd gone any later to like more the flat screeny desktops, they would have had the USB plug-in
Yeah.
ball webcam. That
Yeah.
then you're right, you would have had to have dealt with that element of technology. The fact that you chose that brick computer, that
Mhm.
once again, like I don't know where you even found that. Like that is such a brilliant thing because like where would you even find
Facebook
something? Like,
Marketplace, and then Facebook Marketplace, and then I tell people who I am, what I do, and
mhm,
why, and they tend to give it to me for free.
brilliant.
So I've been very fortunate with my finds on Facebook
Mhm,
Marketplace for design, and again, it's very much in the moment of I'll just be in front of the telly watching something, and then I'm
Mhm.
just kind of scrolling through
Mhm.
Facebook Marketplace, and I'll find stuff that's been on there for a really long time. And then I'm
Mhm.
like, hey,
I'll take this.
I'll take it from you if you want. And the sad part about that particular thing is that it was working, and it was going to be able to work for the show and
What?
like load up and have a Facebook profile on there, so it would have the glow on her face and everything. But he by accident
Mhm.
wiped it all before he took so I'd had to get all the floppy disks to
Oh
like
gosh.
re-upload everything. But
Oh wow.
yeah, so that was part and parcel, but it was still there. And then all the
Mhm.
VHSs of mine, all the
Those are
VCR, and
collectibles now, some of those
I
VHSs, let
know.
me tell you. Don't go I threw out all my VHSs and I kicked myself that I gave up so much of that great material because now it's all becoming collectible. It's gone to the point where it was junky and filling up your house, and now it's come back. And
Oh,
people are
I
like,
know. I heard on the radio yesterday that cassette tapes are coming back.
"Yeah, I got rid of all of mine." I
Yeah,
still have two that I
I
kept because
have
they were the ones
I
that I
have all
listened
mine.
to.
Yeah, I've got everything. I've got a Game Boy, I've got a Game Gear, I've got all the
Look at
old
you.
Wii's, I've got all the PlayStations, I've got VHSs. I love nostalgia, and
Mhm.
I love the fact that I was born in the 80s and grew up in the 80s and
Yeah,
90s. I feel very, very fortunate that I did.
love it.
I wish my kids could have my childhood and the world
Mhm.
backdrop that was.
Yeah, I mean, it was funny, like, I was talking with my youngest sister, she's 6 years behind me,
Mhm,
and so we were talking about the save icon being a
mhm.
floppy disk, and she didn't know what a floppy disk was, and I was like, "Oh, the simpler
Yeah.
times, like, just plugging in the floppy disk," like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yep,
yeah,
yep, yep.
oh, yeah.
Well, I mean, people will know that when I just spoke about it there. But
Mhm,
yeah, no,
mhm,
yeah, I mean, all the elements that
mhm,
are there were
mhm,
all things that were probably
mhm,
mine or my son's. So a lot of like
mhm.
the poster, the peace sign is my son's
Yeah,
poster from
yeah,
his room. He came
mhm.
into the theater and I had taken some stuff from his room without telling him. And because that's what it is to be with a mum who's an artist. And he came into the theater and he looks around, he doesn't see anything. And he's like sitting there and he's looking at the set and he goes, "That's all my stuff, mum." I was like, "Yeah, yeah." He's like, "That's my desk." I was like, "Yeah." And he was like, "Oh, that's my dustbin." Yeah, yeah. I was
Mhm.
like, "That's my poster." Yeah, yeah. That's my picture of that. Yeah, yeah. And I was like, "Yeah, but you haven't known it's been gone for the last 3
Yep,
weeks, so you know."
yep. My mom would say the same thing. She goes, "If you didn't know it was gone, did you
Yeah,
ever really miss it?"
exactly. And
Yep.
his bedside table. There was quite a lot of things that he got in the program. A big thank you for
Oh.
all his donations to the piece. But yeah, there was a big moment in my household of because they
Mhm,
wanted to come and see it.
mhm,
My sons are 12 and 14,
mhm,
and they were going to come and see it. And then my partner Grisha, he said that he
mhm,
didn't feel that it was appropriate for them to see the play. And
mhm,
I'm very open with my kids, so
mhm,
I was like, no, these are the conversations that I would want to have as a parent.
mhm,
So if it's a piece of art that I'm doing, I'd love to be able to discuss
mhm,
it. But the day they were supposed to come, they both had the instinct of, no, we don't want to come. And so they didn't.
mhm.
So I think there is definitely an advisory on it. I think 16 was appropriately put on it.
Absolutely.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah, it's heavy. I mean, once again, it's always up to parents and the children to figure out where the line is, but I absolutely agree that this piece is heavy enough that you're right, 16 is
Mm-hmm.
a really good age to be
Mm-hmm.
introducing this type of material to. Like, I can't imagine trying to bring, like, a young child to see it, even though nowadays, with the way technology goes, kids are growing up so much faster with
Mm-hmm.
technology that they're
Yeah.
being introduced to these type of concepts so much faster. But it's that I agree, it's that nope, let it I agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
Let it be for now. Enjoy. And so speaking of production designs, because you're working on the next project for the King Black Box, which is Bug by Tracy Letts.
Yes.
So can you give us any hints or details about kind of what that's been
Yeah.
like for you to dive into that piece? Because I'm
Yeah.
sure
I'm
our audience will
working.
love to come see it after hearing all about the greatness of Romeo Pimp.
Oh, thanks. Yes, it's going to be really fun. I'm really looking forward to working with Andy
Mhm,
and Nick and Lay and
mhm,
Alex and Bongani and
mhm,
Sean and Grisha. We're all working together. And Kaylee, who's our stage
mhm,
manager, we've already had our table read. We have had preliminary meetings, even when Romeo Pimp was in rehearsals. The process has begun. Andy's doing the soundscape for it, which
mhm,
is, I've heard some of it and I'm really excited for it as
mhm.
well. In terms of the production design, there are so many different ways I could go with it, which is really fun. I'm keeping it kind of under wraps right now, but we'll
Mhm,
see what kind of ends up being the
mhm.
motel, because we could go very literal, but there are other
Yes.
symbolic ways that
Mhm,
I have placed in front of Andy to consider. And as we have the luxury of a turnkey, I tend to like to get the production, if the director's allowing it, to get it done quite early so the actors
mhm,
have a lot of time with the production
mhm,
design so they can really immerse themselves
mhm.
with it.
Yeah,
But yeah, it's going to be great. We're opening on the 28th of November,
perfect.
running from Wednesday to Sunday. It starts at
Mhm.
8 p.m. And oh my God, it's Tracy Letts. So
Can't go wrong.
yeah,
It's a perfect holiday piece. Ho, ho, ho.
so much so. But it's really uncanny that like
Mhm,
I had a critic pull me aside during my first show with the King Black Box, Glory of Living, and he pulled me aside and he knew all my art from Sterling. So he'd seen all of my shows at Sterling
mhm,
Studio. And he said, Sophie, I really think that you should do Bug. And I was like, yeah, I like that play. That's a good one.
mhm,
And then in my inbox, like I think it was like someone had Nicholas actually had come and seen Girls Unwanted and Glory of
mhm,
Living and had contacted Andy and said,
mhm.
you have to fuck with these people. They're so good. They're so good. You've got to with so you got to work with her. And so Andy reached out in my inbox and the title said, do you want to do Bug? And I was just like, yeah. And this is uncanny. This is crazy.
Yeah.
So that happened right after Girls Unwanted. And so that fell in my inbox. And so to put it up with that much synchronicity
Mhm.
is kind of cool. And
Yeah.
like Andy is from Bowen Island in Vancouver, but he lives in Montreal. And so it's so fun to bring a director into Toronto I know he's worked in Toronto before as well, but Nicholas
Mhm.
Eddy, who's incredible. I don't know if you've ever seen him as a performer.
No, I
Um,
haven't yet.
he's fantastic. And then LA Sweeney, who was one of our Girls Unwanted cast, and
Mhm.
Alex Florismatic, who was also in Girls Unwanted, are treading the boards as well. So
Brilliant.
it's going to be really, really interesting and really fun.
Amazing, amazing. Well, I can't wait for Bug. That is something I am very, very excited to see
What's a
just what
play
you're
that
gonna do.
you like? What should I do next?
Oh, I mean, thinking of things that work well in your space. I mean, the play Closer by Patrick Marber.
I know it well. Yeah.
Yeah, that's one where I was like, in such an intimate space, that would be such a fascinating
Interesting. Yeah, that could be
piece.
good. Oh,
That
that's what I was
one,
going to tell you. Oh, Bug is going to be picked up by Broadway.
yes, I saw Carrie Coons doing it on Broadway.
Yeah, so we were lucky we got our rights in before.
Mhm,
We got the
mhm.
rights before. Anyway, yes, keep
Yeah,
going. What else
yeah.
would closer? Other
Closer would be one. I mean, I would love for you to do 12 Angry Men or 12 Angry Jurors in that
Ooh.
room, just because you could really make that into an actual jury room
Yeah.
and have the audience just sitting like almost alleyway, like
Mhm.
along the wall, and then they're just stuck in that
Yeah.
hot jury room the entire time. You can't leave. I just think that once again, I love the intimacy of your space. It's just so beautifully claustrophobic, where you're so close to people, you can touch
Yeah.
everything and everyone. So yeah, that'd be definitely one to do. I'm trying to think what other ones that what else did I think? I mean, part of me would love to see you tackle something like a Titus Andronicus, something that's really
That
bloody
is
and
so funny because I want to pitch something to Stratford. And
mhm.
that would be my pitch, would be Titus Andronicus.
Titus is one of my favorite Shakespeare plays, and I've had an idea of that play in the
We'll
back of
have
my
to
brain.
we'll have to
Well,
talk off air
we'll
because
talk about it off air.
yeah, we'll talk it off air because I don't want to
Yes.
I don't want to go into what my pitch would be for
Yeah.
Titus at Stratford, but I wonder if we're along the same.
Okay.
Maybe
Well,
we'll
off
see.
mic that one. But even then, like
Off
even
mic.
in your space, just the violence and brutality of that play and making the audience be so close to like Lavinia, who's lost her hands and her tongue. And it's like I could also make it like a splash zone style show like Evil Dead, where it's like if you sit in those first 2 rows, bring your poncho because you know you're gonna get splattered.
I remember going to the Globe and
Mhm.
seeing Titus. And I went, so at the Globe in the UK, you can have regular show or the nighttime shows. They do two in one night, right?
Mhm.
And I chose to go to the evening one. And so your audience members are either pissed off their head, you know, they're drunk, or they're pretty loud, right? Because you're in the pit, like there's the pit, and then I wasn't in the pit, thank goodness. I was on the like the first balcony or whatever. And watching Titus was the funnest because people would vomit for real in the pit. Faint. They would faint for real. They got escorted out. The amount of people getting escorted out from fainting for all the blood. That I'd never had on paper, like Titus always was one that was like, okay. And then when I saw it at the Globe, it was just the whole atmosphere of what you're feeling of being in that slasher zone or splash zone. You were getting it from your audience, you know. There's people barfing behind you, like you just couldn't handle the blood, you know. So that's or screaming. I love theatre, man. Theatre, you can't. There won't be any place to replicate that, you know. There won't be any AI actors on stage, so you know. It's a
I mean, I remember the first time seeing Titus. I was at Stratford Shakespeare School at the festival. It was the last time it was done, which was almost over 10 years ago since they've done that play. But it was an all-white set, so the lights, when they hit it, it reflected so you could see everybody in the audience. So on one side of us, we had Christopher Plummer and his wife in the front row because it was the same year he did The Tempest as well. So I guess he had an off afternoon and he wanted to go see it. So you have watching him react on one side. And then on the other side, we had a lady who literally had her coat over her eyes through almost 3/4 of the first act. And then she didn't come back for act 2. I went, that's the power of this piece. Is it can make you so squeamish and uncomfortable that it was like, oh, it's just one of my favorites to watch. Because when people talk about that play and they're like, oh, it's so gory, but I'm like, that's the point though. Like it's meant to be that visceral because revenge is just all consuming. It rips you into a million pieces. I mean, the one thing I wish I would get my hands on is Gary, the sequel to Titus Andronicus that Nathan Lane just did on Broadway. That's all about what happens after that piece. What happens, you know, when the lower classes have to come clean up the mess of all this revenge. I haven't had a chance to get my hands on the script for it yet, but that's another one where I was like, it's a 3-hander, it's intimate. So I'm like, that'd be a fun one to try. If you can't stage a full Shakespeare, do the sequel. Kind of dark comedy where it's 3 servants cleaning up the dinner scene and dealing with all the blood and all that on stage and the commentary that it has. And the last one I would suggest is The Roommate that they just did on Broadway with Patti LuPone and Mia Farrow. And it's really 2 women, dark comedy, just 2 older women. It's kind of like a dark version of Golden Girls, of just these 2 totally different people stuck being roommates together later in life. So that could be an interesting one to play with.
Noted. Heard.
Yeah. But there we go. Well, I know that you're a busy lass there with all your projects. I don't want to hold you. So I think we'll wrap our interview. We'll go off mic for more fun combos later. But we'll leave our interview here. Sophie, thank you so much for coming on to talk all things theater and Romeo Pimp and your process. I've loved every minute of this. This has fed my theater soul, getting to talk deep with art, with someone who does it so well. So thank you. Thank you for coming on to do this. This is absolutely wonderful. Where can we find and follow you though? If they want to stay in tune with what you're up to, because you got Assassin's Creed, you're shooting things, you got theater work you're producing. Where can people
Yeah.
kind of stay in touch with you to stay on top of what you're up to?
You can keep a hold of what I'm doing in my career on IMDb, but I'm
Hmm.
also Shot by Loafer on
Hmm.
Instagram. But I
Hmm.
have the King Black Box. I'm also an
Hmm.
educator at Raw Actors Studio,
Hmm.
and a mentor for Ontario Arts Council
Hmm.
and the New Brunswick Board. And what else? Yeah, I have a website. Just Google me.
Google you.
Google it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Perfect. Amazing. Well, thank you so much again, everybody. Stay healthy, stay safe, and we will see you all in the next episode. And until then, cheers.
Cheers indeed.
Cheers.